Hello, everyone. Welcome to stage two of the underpainting, which I will be using a very watered down acrylic paint by Basics called Dioxin Purple. I'm washing the leaves, the stems, and a little bit of the main subject, which is the bird of paradise. The idea behind what I'm doing here is I'm looking at the values that I've already established in the sticks in the background itself, knowing that a lot of the values on the greenery, for example, are going to have to be a little bit lighter, but yet maybe slightly darker than the main subject. So I'm approaching this by just putting a light wash over all of the uh, greenery that's in the back of the flower. So I don't want to get it mixed up with the background stuff because that's laid in, that's done. Now I'm building up what I'm just going to call the foliage. And in doing this, it's my way of making it easier for me to see how I would paint this going along in color or monochromatic. So I'm adding the values very lightly, using the negative space to help create veins in some of the leaves, rather they're kind of spidery where they spin out from one side to the next side, or in the case of the one I'm working on right now, kind of like stripes. And I like having these variations as well as color variations to help keep your eye moving about the entire painting, not really settling on anything except the main subject. And here I'm also trying to look at how to slowly introduce shadows and values without having to go too strong and then wish I would have gone a little lighter to build it up slowly. And again, I just want to preface this. This is just my way of doing this. And I don't think that anybody has to do their paintings this way. I just love to do it this way. And I'm going to try to quickly tell you why while you watch this. I'm working out all of the problems right now. Right now, the reason that I take my time and paint it so slowly and build it up so slowly is because I want to identify when I go to paint this all of the areas that might present a bit of a problem. Any drawing that I've done, I'm actually correcting the drawing with this underpainting of tones and values. Sometimes I take lines out and reintroduce new lines, or I'll play with the shadows to see like how would I go about representing that. So for me, the underpainting is not only a great undersurface for the paint to lay on and a great guide to show me where to place the values of those colors. And in some cases, I'll be using one color and allowing the thickness or darkness of the underpainting to act as the shadow of that color itself once it's laid over. But I also get a chance to experiment and see exactly what's going to be a little bit of a hiccup for me. So in my correcting the drawing with the underpainting, I'll also be using the painting itself, whether it's monochromatic in a black and white or whatever the monochromatic color I decide to use in oils, or if I decide to go with full blooming color. I'm going to make corrections to this underpainting that same way. I could easily eliminate anything that I have here, or definitely minimize its visibility by muting it down a lot more than you're seeing in the underpainting. So this is kind of like a way of having a thumbnail sketch right underneath the painting that I'm actually going to be working on. And when I finish working on the finished product, you won't even see this. You won't see the drawing, nor will you see the underpainting. All you'll see is the finished product, and you'll never know what I went through to get there. But this is my process. This allows me a building block. I call it like I'm putting on the skeleton. Like this is like the skeleton where it has some flesh on it, but the real meat is going to come, or the real flesh is going to come when I put wherever I'm going to put on the top of this. And that's where it gets a little bit final. Final in the sense that now I'm aiming towards a completely finished product. Here, I'm just kind of studying. So that's why it takes so long for me to do these things, because as I'm developing my underpainting, I'm actually developing my painting. So I'm using the time, the 1 hour on the initial stage, the first stage, the hour here on the second stage, which is reduced down to 12 minutes in this video, is so that I can play with the tones and values and what I want in it, what I don't want in it. And then I'm seeing things that when I go to paint this, that I might add and or take away. So here's a great opportunity, I think, to not only develop my washing skills, because this thin down acrylic paint, it almost feels like I'm doing a watercolor. So even a watercolor, even though this isn't going to be a watercolor, but this could easily be a watercolor. This could easily be how I would transition my values and my washes, which is why I use the term washes, because I'm using acrylic paint with water. And acrylic is a water-based paint. So by washing these different values, if I wanted to convert this whole idea into a watercolor, I would even have the lesson already laid out through this underpainting style. So there's a lot of variables as to why I choose to go this route. Another one that's kind of slightly off kilter is sometimes I don't get an opportunity to paint as much as I'd like to. So here with these purple underpaintings, they can stand alone as finished products. I could not paint this for 2 years and it'll just sit there looking like this. I could easily strip the tape off and or put it back later if I just wanted to leave it as a standalone, because I'm using I'm using canvas sheets, canvas paper by Fredericks. You can get that from Hobby Lobby, Dick Blick, Utrecht, any places you want. Just look up watercolor sheets or watercolor paper. Look up canvas sheets or canvas paper, and you'll find them. So this isn't even a full-fledged canvas. This is just what I like to idealize on, what I like to kind of play with and experiment with, and to show ideas like this, how you would go about doing this. I could easily then take this idea to a stretch canvas or to a watercolor sheet, blah, 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 blah. So again, I'm looking at the fact that my background in this part that you see, I'm going in and I'm kind of adding another layer of less water, more pigment, so that I get a thicker layer of wash to go back into the background to help continue to pop up values, but also to create varying values, because the background could be similar to some of the colors that's on some of the leaves. So I need to go in and just make that a little stronger. Now in my painting, that's going to be black, so it's not really going to make a difference. And my black isn't going to be just jet black. It's going to be a combination of colors to make a dark. And that's going to become what you're seeing as the quote unquote black areas. And then the color parts will have variations of tones and shades in those colors, greens, oranges, blues, whatever it's going to be in the foliage as color. That'll be on the actual overlaying of this underpainting. But this is why I do this process, to develop the picture nice and easy. And this is how I develop stage 2.